The Opioid Crisis, Understanding the Dangers by Darren Valdez. Over 80,000 Americans recently died from drug overdoses, highlighting a nationwide epidemic. Addiction can affect 3 to 12% of people prescribed opioids for legitimate pain, showing the risk is both real and widespread. Well, what are opioids? Prescription drugs like oxycodone, hydrocodone, and morphine are used for pain management, while illegal substances such as heroin and fentanyl contribute to thousands of deaths each year. All opioids affect the brain by binding to receptors in the reward system, alerting the brain chemistry. The alarming statistics. 84,076 annual deaths are Americans who died from drug overdoses in recent data. 38% rise in opioid-related deaths nationally in 2020. And 68% growth rate increase in death rates between 2019 to 2021 in some areas. How does addiction develop? Initial use often begins with legitimate prescription for pain management. Second is the brain changes. Third is the tolerance, is when the body requires higher dose to achieve the same effect. And fourth is the dependence. Health consequences. Opioid use can cause serious health effects, including respiratory depression, slowed or stopped breathing, and is the leading cause of overdose deaths. It also weakens the immune system, increases the risk of infections, causes severe digestive issues like constipation, and could lead to long-term damage to vital organs such as liver, kidneys, and heart. The mental health impact. Depression and anxiety. Opioid use worsens existing conditions and can trigger new mental health issues. Cognitive decline. Decision-making abilities and memory function become impaired with continued use. Social isolation. Relationships deteriorate as obtaining drugs become the primary focus. Financial strain. The pursuit of drugs leads to severe economic hardships and instability.
Welcome to 2-Minute Neuroscience, where I explain neuroscience topics in 2 minutes or less. In this installment, I will discuss opioids. The term opioid refers to substances that bind to opioid receptors, usually to exert pain-relieving effects. Opioids can be found naturally in the opium poppy, or they can be partially or completely synthetic. In addition to pain relief, opioids also cause sedation, anxiety reduction, and euphoria, along with a variety of other effects. When opioids bind to opioid receptors, they promote potassium conductance, which makes a neuron less likely to fire an action potential. And they inhibit calcium conductance, which makes a neuron less likely to release neurotransmitters. What effect these actions have depends on where the receptors are found. When opioid receptors on neurons in the spinal cord that carry information about pain are activated, it can inhibit the transmission of pain information to the brain. Opioids can also act on descending pain modulatory systems to reduce pain. For example, by binding to receptors in an area of the brainstem called the periaqueductal gray, opioids can prompt the inhibition of pain signaling in the spinal cord via a pathway that first synapses in the medulla. Opioids can reduce the emotional impact of pain by acting in brain regions like the anterior cingulate cortex, and they increase dopamine levels in areas like the nucleus accumbens, which may contribute to the reinforcing qualities of the drugs. Exposure to opioid drugs leads to tolerance, which involves a decreased response to the drug and a need to take more to produce the same effect. The mechanisms of opioid tolerance aren't fully understood, but they're thought to involve adaptive changes like a reduction in the number of functional receptors for the drug to act at. Adaptations in response to the presence of the drug also lead to dysregulation when the drug is removed, and withdrawal effects that are opposite in many ways to the typical effects of the drug.
Now, warning signs. Signs of opium misuse include taking higher doses than prescribed or doctor shopping. Behavioral changes such as mood swings, sleep issues, and energy fluctuations may occur. Individuals may neglect responsibilities at work, school, or home, and continue using opioids despite clear harm to their health and relationships. Getting help and resources. Recovery from opioid addiction starts with recognizing the problem, seeking professional help, including medication-assisted treatment. Building a strong support network of counselors, family, and recovery group can aid the process. Long-term recovery and achievable with continued support and commitment. Text the National Helpline 1-800-662/help. 4357 is available 24/7 for confidential guidance. And these are my sources I used.